following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, and today our guest is Dennis Hogan, candidate for county attorney. Dennis, you in 2010, you were a county attorney.
That's right.
Now you want to be it again.
That's correct.
What are you going to do when you get back in?
Well, I hope to return the focus of the county attorney's office to what it should be. I think that's the real issue in my mind between the difference between myself and my opponent is I want to keep it focused on what it really does, which is to prosecute felonies in the Superior Court, as opposed to attempting to grow it into something different. You know, the budget is something I examined, I think, from the last time that I was here with you. And my opponent proposed to increase the amount of personnel by 20%. And these people were going to do things that weren't part of the real focus of the department. And so that's one of the things I'm going to be interested in. Also, trying to bring the county attorney's office sort of into the future. We've got a problem looming in that the the courts want to go paperless. And when I left, we hadn't made as much progress in that as I would have liked to have made. So that's something to look forward to. And, you know, you can stay focused if you improve what they're doing. And I think a way to improve the way of the process of that office is to make sure it's compatible with the courts when the courts want to go paperless.
So you don't see them having that now. You want to implement a program
well, you know, I'm not
that makes
there,
it
so
smoother.
I'm not there, so I don't know how much progress has been done. I can only read the tea leaves from looking at a budget. I see that they spent a lot of money on a copy machine, so I assume that they, have the intention of sticking with paper for a long time if that much is being spent with a copy machine.
I see.
But as I said, I'm not there.
Yeah.
And
but you see it as a potential problem in this conversion over to the
it's always a
system.
challenge. Change is a challenge. And there's a lot of forces out there that are looking to streamline, and going paperless is part of that. Other counties had done it. Rockingham had done it when I was there, and the others were preparing to do it. The commissioners didn't see a fit to do it while I was there. I couldn't get them interested in that. And part of it was resources and what was happening with the distribution of resources. So it's going to be a challenge, but it is something I think that ought to be done.
Well, how about the new courts that they've started over the last couple of years, the drug court and now the mental health court, I guess you might call them. I don't know. How is that going to fold into all of this?
Well, they call them different courts, but they're really not different courts. They're the same courts. It's more of having a different process. And so it shouldn't, that really is not going to affect much. Hopefully, if they work, it's going to affect, getting people to stop coming back. The recidivism rate will decrease potentially if these things are done well. And, everybody's hopeful for that.
Yeah. This is, you're still going to have two places. You're going to be both in Nashua and Manchester for your staff?
That's right. As far as I know, that won't change. There's still the Superior Court in Nashua, the Superior Court in Manchester. I haven't heard any talk of changing that.
No, I haven't
in a while.
either,
I mean, Nashua certainly should have a Superior Court, and I was, you know, when they were talking about getting rid of that, I was right at the forefront, making sure that the battle was, you know, was fought in keeping it here, you know, making our case, you know, talking to the, you know, I got with the mayor, called her right away, made sure she was on the case, because I know she's a good advocate for Nashua, and spoke directly to the judiciary and told them what a problem I thought it would be. You know, I didn't blast them in the press or anything like that, but I talked to them person to person and told them we weren't for it.
So do you have enough facilities for your for the people there?
In terms of room,
Yeah.
oh sure, yeah, there's plenty of room. You know, they opened that new office
building, yeah.
in Manchester,
Right.
and there are extra offices in that space. You know, I think really it was built to grow. So yeah, I don't think space is a problem. You know, obviously we're gonna continue. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. We'll grow. The department will grow as much as, hopefully, and no more than the economy grows. Of course, the economy isn't growing now. I was going to say obviously it's going to grow, but if the economy stops, you know, stays dead in the water as it is today, you may not have a growing.
So you said that
office.
they have approval to add more staff. Or now, do you know?
No, there was a proposal.
Oh, it was a proposal.
Yeah,
oh,
a proposal from my opponent to increase the amount of staff by 20%. That was shot down by the commissioners, and as it should be. I think part of what they did is they talked to the sheriff, and you know, part of what was being proposed was really something that would either overlap with the sheriff, or if the sheriff's not already doing it, it's something within the purview of the sheriff.
Oh.
So, you know, when you try to do something like that, you know, you really should think about cooperating with other departments.
Definitely, yeah.
And to see, you know, it was done without really the consultation of first the commissioners, and then certainly the sheriff.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's just another example of something I would bring into the office. I mean, it's hard to illustrate that I'm a good listener by sitting here talking to you, right? Because I'm supposed to be talking and telling you how, you know, why to vote for me instead of the other person. But, you know, it really is part of my strength as a leader, as I understand that leadership is as much listening as it is talking.
Definitely.
Yeah, and because if you don't listen, you're not going to get the information of all the people. And, you know, all those people that are there with you are part of your strength. And whether it's the people that are working under you or the people that are in the departments that are at level with yourself, you know, all those, listening to those people add to your strength.
Yeah, they all have a reason to be involved. I mean, they have an interest in doing their job right, and if you're
Absolutely.
You have to integrate that.
Yeah, and you know, they are there spending the taxpayers' money. Right. To the extent that I can cooperate with other people that are being paid by the taxpayers' money, I think is a savings to the taxpayer.
Definitely.
I mean, one of the things that my opponent did early on in the administration was to have a public conflict with the Chief Justice of the court, the Superior Court, Administrative Justice. And, you know, it just is a sort of a tip of the iceberg and what kind of waste is going on to not be helpful. You know, all the court is trying to do is streamline things and see if something would work. Well, maybe it's not going to work, but maybe it is going to work. Why not participate in a project that's trying to find out if they can do something better? I think that comes from a mentality that's completely different. I mean, I came to the county attorney's office as an outsider in 2011 when I started, and looked at the processes that were there, and you know what people were doing, and asked questions, and found that there were some things that didn't need to be done, and found where we could improve things. My opponent comes from the department, you know, and there's a certain, I think there's a mentality of if we can make it bigger, that's a better thing. You know, it's a Democrat thing. If they think if they've added to government, they've achieved something, you know. That's part of it. I think there's a part of it that's, you know, don't tell us what to do. We've been doing it this way. You know, we already know what we're doing kind of mentality, and which I don't bring to that position. I bring a position of, well, let's see what we can improve. And, well, I think that's something that voters are going to like when I bring back, you know, my experience into it.
Well, one of the things that I remember from the 2010 to 12 legislature is the call center that Justice Department put in.
Yes.
Now, as I understood it from the preliminary information I had back then, it worked out better than they thought.
As someone who, that's the perception I have as well.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's a private attorney who just calls the call center to get, the business done.
Right.
For example, I might have to call and say, I'm running late. I'm in one court having a hearing, and I have to be in another court, very soon for another hearing. So I call ahead to let them know. Always call the same number now, and just give them the information on the case, and then they send a message.
So it's good.
It's great.
It's working out
so there
well.
isn't some, and there's, they can limit the amount of people that are needed to just pick up the phone. They can have people doing something else instead of picking up the phone. So yeah, I think it's worked very, very well.
Plus the fact that they talked among themselves so that everybody would hear about different things that they thought could change.
Right.
They could implement different things
Sure.
much easier up there.
Sure. Yeah, the whole transfer to a circuit court has worked quite well. Part of it is because they've taken away the duplication that they thought that they needed in each. In other words, you had a court, so it needed this, 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 and each place there was a court, you had all those things, and they realized that if you did a circuit position, some of those things could be handled by one person overall, the whole thing. So technically they're working in the circuit, but then they don't have to have one in each division of the circuit. Yeah, efficiency is greatly increased, and I've noticed no problem at all. In terms of a user, you get there and it's the same exact thing.
Does that affect the county's operation at all?
It didn't. That was the problem with when they were starting to talk about taking the Nashua away and bringing it up to Manchester. They were trying to take sort of the plan that worked in the circuit and just applying it to something else without really having thought it fully through. Because there is a certain, there certainly would be savings if you just took Nashua and made it part of Manchester, made everybody from Nashua schlep up to Manchester.
But you're serving the people, and you don't, you need a station, I guess you might say, in each big city where the large people are.
Sure.
They have to come to you.
Sometimes a good idea is good, and then you try to apply it to something else, and it's not a good idea.
Right.
As medicine, sometimes, you have a small amount, that's great, and then too much of it, that's bad.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that's sort of my philosophy of government. Government is extremely important for the, the economic welfare of a society. And so if that's great, but when you have too much of it, it can become the most dangerous thing.
Beautiful description.
Yeah. So it's very much like a medicine.
Right. And the communications nowadays is so instantaneous. You don't have to be there to communicate.
True.
You can go around with your special phone and communicate with people.
That's right.
Or your iPads now. You get, there's a small mini computer right there, better than a laptop.
And a lot of progress has been made in not having to transport people, like prisoners. They will be in front of a screen instead of being transported. All that transport cost hopefully goes down. Of course, you have to get rid of the entire transport, not just one person being transported, in order for it to save you. So that's a little more difficult. But it's still something to look at.
It's a little bit difficult to do that, but the idea is there, the concept, the efficiency, and the fact that you can get these things done safer, as a matter of fact.
Right, sure.
So those are the things you have to keep. As well, as a county attorney, you found that out. You looked at it from a different perspective.
Right.
And it'd be kind of, it's almost you don't have to, you have to be able to, I'm looking for a word that I can't remember, but anyway, you're able to accomplish something.
Right. Well, when your delegation, you were part of the delegation back then, when you asked me basically to reduce the amount we spent by 8%, I think it was 6% the first year and 2% more the next year, I was able to do it. But I tell people the first step in getting that done is wanting to try to get that done.
Yeah.
If you have the attitude of, well, it can't be done, don't bother us, we know more than you, just send in your tax dollars.
Yeah.
Well, then you're never going to achieve, the goal of savings. So, when we were looking at, and I learned a lot from studying history. And one of the great historical decisions was, I think, when Kennedy was talking about what to do with the missiles being in Cuba. And so they kind of graphed out, look, if we do this, where are we going to end up? If we do this, we're going to. So I actually, when it came to reducing the budget, I would write down on a big white thing, big white piece of paper, what we could possibly do. And there were various alternatives that we worked through, and some of them were just plain bad ideas that I came up with. And I talked to the people who were there, and they said,
no
that's,
way.
wow, that's not going to work. Let's not do that. And some were other people's bad ideas, and but we eventually came to what was a very smooth transition from the greater amount of spending to a lesser amount of spending. And in asking those questions, we actually ended up with more efficiency. Because we actually found in one instance that there was something being done in Nashua that wasn't even being done in Manchester, and so we just stopped doing it in Nashua, and that helped a lot. So,
Well, I see.
yeah. And I should mention too that while I was there, I mean, the important thing is all this administrative stuff we're talking about. But I thought it was important, to be part of the group and with the effort and such. So I did take cases to trial, and did do jury trials for the county, and was a prosecutor while I was there. I think that's an important thing to point out, because I know I don't usually point it out, but I just wanted to make sure I got that.
So well, that's you really have to get into the involvement. I mean, do what your people are doing.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, there's part of it that you're told. Even as I've told you before, I once elected went to a class which I paid for myself to go to San Francisco and take a class on how to be a district attorney. Oh. And they thought it was important that you work side by side with people. It's good for morale, that sort of thing. So I did that, and it was kind of fun, actually. I was a little jealous of them being able to do it all the time. So instead of taking care of the administrative tasks, that was generally doing.
You have to be able to work with your people,
right?
And you have to be able to do some of the things. I've been through some of that too, and it does tie you together a little bit.
Right.
You get a better understanding of what they're feeling when they go through.
Yeah.
And do you know anything? Is you anticipating more court cases or less court cases?
Well, that's hard to tell. When I studied it while I was there, and it was always just a slight increase with with ups and downs as it was. It seemed like you saw the economy go down, and it seemed to get worse because people were in dire straits, kind of thing. But then the economy would go up, and more people would come, so it would go up some more. But we did have years of ups and downs, but mostly it's up.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good luck on your campaign.
I
hope if anybody wants to get in touch with you, we've put
if
your
anybody has
information on there.
Right. Any further questions?
You certainly can use help in trying to get all Hillsborough County to vote for you.
Well, it's a big area. There's no question about that. I try to, team up with other people running for things and work together to get our names out. So.
Oh, good. Well, good luck, Dennis, and thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.